Welcome to Super Entrepreneurs Podcast. Today we have with us Richie Norton. Richie, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing so good. I'm so glad to be here. I'm so excited. Thanks for having me on. No, I already tell, like, we're going to have so much fun.
You can always tell, right?
You're awesome. Yeah, totally.
Me too. Yeah, no, Richie is such a great introduction with your business partner to fame. Like, he introduced us, and I'm grateful that we took the opportunity to come on the show. I love doing this because, you know, it immediately brings a spark in that introduction. For example, what I'm trying to say is, like, when you come on a show like this and we're recording, right? Like, we're right on video and camera, and we're just, boom, we go into it and we start talking, and I've built such phenomenal relationships this way. I've tried it the other way. You know, you do a little call first, right? You talk to them, and then you get on the actual episode, the actual recording. It works as good. But I find that I'm just blessed. Like, I just connect with people right away, and I'm grateful that you took the time to come on our show.
Yeah, no, ready to go. This is going to be great.
Awesome. That's awesome, my friend. So we always like to allow our guests to take the stage and introduce themselves in their own words, please.
Sure. You know, I was born and raised in San Diego. I lived in Brazil for a couple of years. I live in Hawaii. I have 4 boys. I have three foster kids that have come and gone. And right now I'm just really, really happy. I can get into all the details, but I've gone through a lot of tragedies, had a lot of hardships, had a lot of good times. And it's funny, people, you know, however we introduce ourselves, on one side, it could look like you have the best life in the world, but on the other side, it could look like you're living like some tragic play from Shakespeare or something like that. You know what I mean? Life's crazy, but I'm a full-on entrepreneur, an author, and my goal is really to help people get their time back and live their true purpose and their true goals. I found one thing you'll know is I found that people say they want more time and they say they want to have more freedom, but they start a business only to lose their time and their freedom to the business. And that is frustrating to them and frustrating to others. I think there's a better way to do it. So I try to create products and systems and content to help people, you know, really live the thing they want, the goal after the goal. You know, that's kind of what I'm going for.
It's funny you said that, because, you know, we do go into entrepreneurship with that dream that, you know, we'll have more time and money freedom. And then we find out that we just get consumed by the business. And basically we just created a times 3 of the employment, for example. We're in a lot more stress and everything, and there's no money, there's no system. So this type of service that you provide is so needed, especially in this day of age right now, is that without that guidance, we could spend literally 20, 15 years in a struggle. And I went through that, like, myself. Like, we didn't know about mentors and anything. So I just thought I could do it all. I knew it all, right? I was perfect, you know? So I was going at it, and 15 years later, it was not good. It was not a good ride. So it's so good that what you do is helping others.
Yeah, it's a roller coaster ride, but that's why we need people like you to kind of share, here's what works, here's what doesn't work, but you can personalize it to your own life and you can figure it out. And you may or may not have to go through all the things that I went through. You know, it's like standing on the shoulders of giants, right? So I love what you're all about, man. I love it.
Oh, thanks, man. You too. I've seen you online. You have done some amazing work. Tell me more about the book, like the author side of you.
Okay. So let me tell you this, like a number of years ago, almost 2 decades ago, I started a social entrepreneurial business where I helped people from wherever they were start companies to work their way out of poverty. So one of the ones I started was in Mongolia, and then I did, it was a cashmere business. And then I started a business in Philippines, American Samoa, Papua New Guinea, I don't know, all over the Asia Pacific Rim. And I got into this rhythm where I was helping people take their own ideas and work their way out of poverty and help employ other people. And it was kind of like, what do you do where there are no jobs? That was kind of the idea. And the idea is like, well, you become an entrepreneur, you know, and you don't have the resources, you don't have the ideas. So anyways, eventually I wrote this book about starting stupid ideas. It's called The Power of Starting Something Stupid. And it did well. And the idea is that stupid is the new smart. It's in like 10 different languages. Brene Brown did a blog post about it and it blew up. It's endorsed by like Jack Canfield and Seth Godin and Covey, and it's done really well. But what I realized too is people would come to me then and say, I have this stupid idea. And it wasn't that hard to say, okay, let's identify a market and, you know, let's give people what they want, ask them what they want and give it to them and sell it. It wasn't that hard, like to, once you dialed it in, to figure out how to grow, start, scale, you know, streamline a business. But what was interesting is they would get successful and they would say, yeah, but I don't have what I really want. And, well, what do you really want? And we'll just use the example, like the time and the freedom and access, the autonomy, that kind of stuff. And I realized that people were baking into, let me say it this way. It was a metaphor. It was as if they were baking a cake with no sugar and then expecting there to be sugar in it when it was fully baked. Mm-hmm. If you don't bake in like your personal values, like if you are not valuing your time and you're timing your values, like I will live when, you don't end up ever living when.
It's so common.
It's so common.
Common.
You will actually have more time and freedom if you put the time and freedom into the bake it in from the start, is what I'm trying to say. Because you yourself become the bottleneck. So the more you allow yourself to live the actual dream from the start of your business, and this sounds theoretical, I can make it a little more tangible in a second, but when you do it from the start, you actually create systems that work from the dream and support it from the start, as opposed to endlessly toward it. So I believe that you should be not thinking of your goals as ends, but your goals as means. Goals from experience or tasks, goals outside experience or growth. So goals are means, strengths are means, habits are means towards a greater end. So that's the idea. So my new book's called Anti-Time Management. And it's not just the reverse of regular management, but management legitimately means control. And it's not about controlling your time. It's who controls your time. Mm-hmm. So time management was actually invented 200 years, well, more about 100 years ago. During the Industrial Revolution and Post-Industrial Revolution, they started this thing called time management, which was to tell people exactly what to do, when, where, and how. And in actuality, it had nothing to do with to give people their time back or their freedom. Never once was it for that. It was, how do I squeeze every drop of blood, sweat, and tear out of your entire body and your brain and everything you're thinking and doing. And so it's bizarre that we say that time management will give us our time back. It's a full calendar is an empty life. And so this new book, Anti-Time Management, helps people.
I love that. No, hold on. Yeah. Full calendar, empty life.
I'm just spitting them out here.
No, that's what I mean. So can I get the licensing to use this again?
You can share all my words everywhere.
That's awesome, man. That's a filled calendar is just an empty life. Like, wow, that's amazing. Richie, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
No, please do. And we don't think about it that way, because when we move from working in a job to becoming an entrepreneur, and we bring with us the knowledge that we have, which means traditional time management systems, traditional goal setting. There's nothing wrong with that inherently. Like, you're going to do whatever you're going to do. You're going to work on whatever you want to work on, but don't pretend or fool yourself into thinking that this is a real example, that when your kids are 13 and 15 and you're starting a company to have more time and freedom and flexibility with your family, don't fool yourself into thinking that in 5 years, you're going to be able to hang out with your kids when they're freaking 18 and 20 years old. You probably will still get to hang out with them. I'm just trying to say, like, they're different. They're different people. They have different priorities. They're doing different things. If the dream is to have like more of whatever you want, the dream could be to have more work. You know what I mean? And do more of the thing you want to. But don't pretend that when you plant a sunflower seed, that it's going to turn into an oak tree. No, you got to plant an acorn. Like, you know what I mean? Like, let's be smart about this.
Yeah. It's so funny about the calendar when I was just thinking about my calendar, right? So when I send it to people and they see it, they must see there's so much availability, right? But that's not, I made sure to do it that way, right? Like, that's why it gravitated what you said about the filled calendar and empty library, because it's so true. You want to multiply your I wouldn't say efforts, but what you do, what you need to produce, you multiply it with people, right? With systems. You want to keep your time as available as possible for doing things like this, like meeting people.
Yes.
And, that's what,
absolutely. Like, flexibility to me is three things. It's autonomy, availability, and ability. So autonomy, you get to choose. Availability, it's obvious, you're available or you're not. And ability, you actually have the capacity or the resources, the talent to be able to do it. Whether you can or not, you can be super rich, you can have all the talent in the world, but if you're not available, I mean, how many, how many millionaires / billionaires do we know that have no time? And you're like, oh,
most,
So the idea is you can crowd out the distractions, even if you're highly distractible, by prioritizing your attention, not managing your time. And this is key. So your calendar, we have been taught to fill up all the things we have to do, but they're usually all the things maybe we're good at, and we feel like we have to do them, but we don't want to do them. We don't like doing them. And we miss out on opportunities. I'll give you a real example. I work with a lot of creators, YouTubers. They'll go to Disneyland and their YouTube video looks fantastically amazing. But what you don't realize is that one of the parents is actually at home editing the videos while the other is running around with their kids. And then they take turns. They don't, it's not always true, right? But in a lot of instances it is. They're staying up all night editing, missing out on the actual good times for the video. Why don't you outsource the video?
Yeah.
The editing of it. Oh, I'm going to lose my creativity. What if you didn't lose the creativity? I have a whole business that does this for people, by the way. So my whole goal is to give people their time back. That's why I started the business to start, create products.
Managing
for people.
their YouTube.
Well, I have a company where YouTubers who usually have 1 million subs or more, and it could be less, it could be more, whatever. They don't want to edit their videos anymore. But I'm like, well, why don't you be like Spielberg? Why don't you just direct the work, and create the content? You get final say, and I'll have this team, just editing the videos first. So we do that. Same thing with the products that we create for people. We make over 100 different products at any given time, physical products. And it was because I realized nobody wants to. It's hard to make, package, ship, warehouse, fulfill. So we we'll just do it all for people. But for me, it's not taking away my time. The whole goal is, how can I start a business that creates more freedom and flexibility for myself and creates freedom and flexibility for others, and the people that are working on the projects like it because that's what they like and want to do. They can own the process and own the business through, what I call expert sourcing. And at the end of the day, your calendar looks completely open because you feel lazy and you're super productive and you're like, what do? I don't know. I guess I'll jump on this awesome podcast and meet new people.
Yeah. That's literally how it really feels that way, right? And then you make these kind of relationships where it creates a quantum effect on whatever you're doing, because these kind of relationships help everyone grow. You know what I mean? Like if imagine if you were doing those videos, I'm sure you're not doing it yourself, or maybe you do a little bit, whatnot. But if you have your team doing all that work, imagine if you or that gentleman that you were referring to, that, if they're in Disney World and he's sitting at home doing it, that time he could invest in something that could make that business create a quantum leap than him having to create and do that legwork himself, right? So you providing that opportunity for people provides that. Yeah.
Exactly. So our company, Prouduct, products you're proud of. So someone would...
Sorry, say that again?
Oh, it's called Prouduct. Pruduct. So products you're proud of. It sounds like I'm saying product with a weird accent, but it's just proud.
But that's cool.
Yeah. But yeah, Prouduct.com. The idea there is, so an entrepreneur will go and start this widget, this thing, and they will spend a year dreaming about it, a year or more pitching it. Then they'll finally realize that to manufacture it somewhere in the world is actually way harder than they imagined. And they don't realize that they could have packaged it just an inch smaller, which would have saved them thousands of dollars in shipping, thousands of dollars in warehousing, and another thousands of dollars in fulfilling. The worst Kickstarters are the ones who actually get funded and they didn't calculate the shipping costs. Right. And so you come to... You come with someone like us, and we can relatively quickly overcome all those challenges, see the beginning from the end, help someone move from the brightness, from the darkness of the night to the brightness of the day, and essentially in just a few months have a product ready to go. It depends on what it is and what they're doing and how it works. Where not only did it save them time and it was done expertly, it actually saved them money.
Yeah,
like legitimately. Actually money, because instead of trying to find out on some weird website where it's not the thing they wanted, we can negotiate with people because we have relationships and we're working it in with different things that are happening. So anyone who's listening to this is like, I don't know what to do, I don't know where to go. Your comments on mentoring and quantum leaps is like, the only word I can think is it is exponential. You can literally go from 0 to 100 overnight when you work with someone who already knows what they're doing. It's incredible.
And especially with good people like you and your partner and everyone, the wonderful work that you guys are doing. I know you guys created products for big names, well-known thought leaders, right? So the service that you provide is really needed. Now, say, for example, there's somebody out there like a coach or a consultant, and he's looking to add an additional source of income. What would be your recommendation for them? Where would they start? Should they start by connecting with you guys and booking a call, or would you send them to do some research? I'm only referring to people that don't have an idea right now. They just want to add a source of income. What kind of recommendation you would give someone like that? What to do first?
Oh, thank you. That's a great question. First, I would just say, realize that having a physical product done correctly can replace your current income as a digital creator or as a coach or as a thought leader very quickly, and it can scale without consuming your time. And this happens a lot. So all of a sudden the digital and the physical come together like yin and yang, and one thing promotes the other. So for example, like John Lee Dumas, he's a famous podcaster guy, right? So
he was on here too.
Oh, good. I love him so much. We've made all 3 of his journals: the Freedom Journal, the Mastery Journal, the Podcast Journal.
He's great. Yeah.
Those generate so much money. And he's hanging out in Puerto Rico. These things are being made somewhere and shipped from somewhere. And it's happening. He works really, really hard, to build an audience and to sell, but the whole process doesn't consume his time. It only creates more listeners for him. Yeah. So if someone doesn't know what they want to do, there's a lot of places we could go. But the first thing I would do is just ask, if you have an audience, ask your audience what they want. Do a survey. An actual survey, name, email. If I were to create something, would you want A, B, or C? Or what question would you ask me if you could? And you start to just figure out, you get 10 people, 100 people, 1,000 people to fill this out. You start seeing trends that'll help you with your regular content business and with your physical product business. You could do like an either or thing, a little poll on Instagram stories. There's a million ways, but I would ask the audience first. Then I would go, do I want to like this thing? Do I actually want to make it? And then you can start, you don't have to know how to do something. You have to kind of figure out what they want and then become an architect. Architects do not build buildings, they draw them. General contractors do not swing hammers. They don't even pick a hammer up if they don't want to. They sub the entire thing out. The entrepreneur's job is to set things in motion, not to do everything.
Yeah. And, everything that you guys are doing, Richie, is all geared around being resourceful, right? The resourcefulness. Were you always resourceful, or was it something in your journey as an entrepreneur? It just happened. You started hearing people say, "Oh, you're a resourceful guy," kind of thing. So when do you think that transition happened? Because being resourceful, I think, is one of those components in an entrepreneur's life that are self-employed, that relies on his own income for his own time to get the income, is such an important component, right?
It's everything. And you can leverage existing resources. People always say they need more time, more education, more experience, and more money, only to find out later in life they still need more time, more education, more experience, and more money. It's a never-ending cycle. When I was a kid, I told my dad I wanted a job. I was 16 years old. And he said, "You don't want a job." He's an entrepreneur, right? What dad says that to their kid? Don't get a job. But I'm from San Diego, and he told me to go to El Centro, where it's like a farming area. And he told me to go to the watermelon patches. This is no joke. And took the family van, took out the seats from the back, and me and my brother, who was 2 years younger, and we asked if we could buy their irregular sized watermelons. He told us to do this. These are the watermelons they can't sell to the grocery stores because they look weird, but they're delicious and they're just oddly shaped.
Yes, I know what you mean. Yeah.
And we sold them on the 4th of July, and we made more money in one day than we would have made working minimum wage the entire summer.
What did you name of, like, ugly watermelons or something unique?
We should have come up with a really cool name, but it was more just like, call people in the community, call our friends' parents, call people from wherever, just be like, "Hey, we have these watermelons. They don't look normal, but they're bigger than the ones you'll get at the grocery store, and they're better priced." And we just set up at the park, and people came and picked them up and bought them.
Amazing.
But that changed my mind. It changed my mind, like, because you just do what you know is available, And so I think being resourceful, like you're saying, is actually a learnable skill. Someone can say, "You know what, there are other ways to do this. And here's another way." That's what a mentor does. Or even better, here's how to think differently about a problem so you can solve it creatively. So instead of saying, "I can or can't do this," say, "How can I do this thing without this terrible thing I'm worried about happening, by next Tuesday?" Anyways, so I think that kind of helped me, just thinking differently that way. But some other things that happen, I have a son that passed away. I have a brother, thank you. But I have a brother-in-law that passed away. My wife had a stroke and lost her memory. My son got hit by a car crossing the street. Our foster kids came and went after 2 years. We hope to adopt them, and that hurts differently because we don't know where they are in the world. So I think a lot of these tragedies, which I don't wish on anybody, forced me to think, "Oh my gosh, time is short. What is actually important? What do I really have to do? What I really don't have to do? And who are others, or where are resources, or what are things that can happen that won't conflict with my actual values and goals and help me still get the same result?" Like, it's called a forcing function. If you are forced to think differently, and for me, it's like, "Oh no, I'm going to spend time with my family because I know how precious it is," then I am not going to work on things I don't like or want to do, but I am going to work really hard on creating a system that supports that. And so I honestly think that instance and others made me start thinking this way, even though I otherwise might not have.
Yeah. Sometimes, even with these mindset transformations, and by the way, I'm very sorry to hear all those things. Like you said, we don't wish it on anyone, even enemies, right? So, but having that experience, creates a transformation within. And, you'll hear this a lot, these people that all of a sudden they just blow up and you hear their story. It's like something happened. Like they got hit hard. Mm-hmm. And that's just all of a sudden they became awakened from within, right? And do you kind of would you say something like that happened to you?
100%.
Okay.
And sometimes I'll look back on it and go like, does God hate me or something? Like, what's going on? Like, why are there so many bad things? Like, no, you can love God unconditionally, regardless of the terrible things that are happening.
Unconditionally, yes.
And go to work. And I think the idea is sometimes when you're waiting for meaning or looking for meaning, and whether it comes or not, I think it's important as individuals and as families to assign meaning. So like as our son was passing away, my wife and I told each other, we're going to let this bring us together, not tear us apart. So we assigned meaning to it. So as things got, because we knew inevitably life would become harder and harder psychologically between us, like all the things is just natural. But when you assign meaning to something, it allows you to make different decisions because you've already decided you're going to make this become a good thing, even when it doesn't look like it's going to be a good thing. And that allows you to make decisions in a different way than just thinking, woe is me. It's very different to say, woe is me, but so what? I'm going to turn this into something good. And that kind of resolve doesn't mean you can't just be sad. It doesn't mean you can lay on the bed, you can relax. Grief is to me, it's a tunnel, not a cave. Yeah. Like all those things you can still do. It's that there are times and seasons for everything. And sometimes it never leaves, it's part of your experience. And when you want something, there are still ways to be creative and work from the dream, not just towards it. And I think that's really important for people to assign meaning to their challenges.
It's a good one. That's the first time I heard that. Assign meaning to the challenges. So when you have a challenge, you assign a meaning to it. So basically it makes the challenge more clear because now you're looking at it with a calmer mind, correct?
Absolutely. And unconsciously, I think we're almost always assigning meaning to it. But when it's something bad, we tend to assign unconsciously negative meaning to it.
Negative. That's it. Beautiful.
And it becomes a downward spiral. But if you assign positive meaning to it, even though it might not make sense to your brain, and it doesn't mean you're being like ingenuine or overly optimistic. It just means how can hard things work for my good? And it allows your brain to open up a space for different types of thinking, which creates different types of actions.
So Richie, say all of a sudden someone is an entrepreneur and a great person, you know them. They come to you one day and they say, Richie, give me one idea I can do today that will bring in enough money that it can help me with my business for this month. What can I do this one time in this one day that will bring business into my world as quick as possible?
Okay. Let me frame it this way. I would say, who do you want to be in 2 years? Like literally, like what do you see yourself doing? Who do you see yourself influencing? How do you experience life? How do you show up in the world? And then I'd work backwards, because once you know who you want to be, you'll know what to do. But when there's a money crunch and you have to pay your rent or your mortgage, or whatever, you obviously
it's
have
very
to do
common, right?
Yeah.
Like any kind of guidance that we can share.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You have to do something. But I'll share this one idea. It doesn't take a lot of people. It doesn't take a big audience to make a lot of money. But it's a very different lifestyle, and you can make a very different type of living when you charge one person $1,000, for example, instead of 10 people $100. It's a very different lifestyle, same money. 10 people at $100 is a very different lifestyle for you as the entrepreneur than one. So I would say if you are in a money crunch, I would ask someone, I would actually approach it the opposite. I would say, who is someone that needs my help?
Good.
Get them on the phone and listen to them for 80% of the time about what they're struggling with, what they're doing. You don't need to say your own struggles. There's no manipulation here. And you just find out when they say, I want X, Y, Z, and you say, I can provide X and Y, but not Z, or I can provide X, Y, and Z, whichever. Or I can provide X and Y and hire, or find someone else, I can architect this thing to do Z for you. At that point, when they say they like this idea, this offer, this product, this service, you haven't told them the price yet. They want it. Then you can talk about the pricing.
Subconscious to subconscious.
Because then it's when you can charge high and they can say no, whatever. But at least when they say no, it's not about the service you or product you offered. It's that they can't afford it, which is not your problem. It's your problem if you want to figure out some way to help them do it in a payment plan or something like that. You don't ever want to convince someone to do something they don't want to do. But in essence, I would target someone who needs something that I can provide. I would charge high for it, and I would make sure and ask they can afford it. And I would talk to someone if I really needed money, I would talk to 10, 20 people, as many as I can in a day. And I know one or two would buy this thing, and it would be massive for me and for them. And if I can do it for one, it would turn into not just a one-time thing. It would turn to multiple business with them, and it would turn into referrals from them. And it would turn into a whole new product line, service line for me with multiple clients.
Thank you, Richie, for sharing that golden stuff, because that's what we try to do here, right? We're trying to bring as much awareness, as much ideas, as much strategies and internal strategies, and provide that to people out there to see if we can help them, even in a little way, right? And that's what it's all about. So,
no, well, you're doing it. I mean, you have this incredible network and influence of people that know, love, and trust you, and you're bringing them, the cream of the crop, the good stuff, so that they can just move beyond these things they're worried about and straight into the things they're dreaming about. And I think that's super important. I love what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Richie. We always like to ask our guests what their inner superpower is that got them to this point.
I think the word that comes to mind is just mindset. It's mindset.
Yes.
I mean, that's the software.
I knew you were going to be my new best friend. I knew it.
It's the software that operates the hardware,
Yes,
and even when outside factors happen.
Wow, that's a new one right there again. Sorry, Richie. I always say, the body is an instrument of the mind, right? So you said what? Sorry, can I say that again?
Yeah, the software. The software operates the hardware.
Oh man, I'm not even taking any notes, but hopefully I'll
You're like, hopefully it's still recording.
I got it recorded.
You're so nice.
Thank you. So finished where you say I interrupted. Sorry.
No.
Okay,
I mean, that's. I think I'm just saying, things happen that you can't control, but we focus so much on the things we can't control that we don't focus on the things we can, and that's why mindset is so important. Even when you're fragile, even when it's hard, even when it's tragic, even when you have to be patient, at some point you just have to think through. And maybe it requires professional help. Maybe it requires medicine. Maybe it requires a personal mentor. Maybe it requires books. Maybe it requires watching the right stuff on the internet, not the crap that's out there. But at some point, like filling your head with the things that are actually positive and not limited, these things will help you find and be creative in ways you haven't imagined.
It's the internal world, is the foundation. When you build a house, you don't just start looking at the curtains, right? You build a foundation, and mindset is like that. Like you said, it's the software that operates the hardware. Beautiful. And I'm going to use that again too. If you ever hear my episode in the future, I'm going to try to remember who said it, but I'm just telling you now. It's recording. I'm going to use it. Yeah. It's awesome.
You're amazing.
So thank you so much. So that part is so important, because that super person within, if you're not creating that environment within, then every little bump becomes extremely bumpy, and I was in that realm before, right? It was just horrible, frustrations and judgment and comparison and all this stuff. Your whole day would go by in those kind of thoughts, right? So it's a blessing. It's a blessing in disguise to become more aware that, hey, I can make changes in my life. I just have to go look in the mirror. I just have to work on me. But it's so hard to comprehend. Like, a lot of people talk about mindset. They think mindset, like, I don't need mindset. I'm great. Like, my relationship are great. Everything's great. But what we're referring to here, and I'm pretty sure, Richie, you're referring as well, is that deep part, right? It's that deep mindset transformation that needs to occur.
Yes. And one simple trick for our listeners here is to ask yourself a better question, and you'll get a better answer. As soon as you start going down some weird thinking process, stop and ask yourself a better question. The questions lead our lives. And so better questions create better outcomes. Better questions
create better outcomes, man. You're Richie. I gotta have this guy like once a month. Just come on the show. Just give me some juicy stuff to talk about. This is amazing. It's awesome, Richie. So grateful again that you came on the show. If there's any final words you want to share with the audience, please go ahead.
A couple of things. So one, you can get my new book, Anti-Time Management. It's on pre-sale, but it's available now. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all the places, and it will share some of the things I've been talking about. But one little thought is, think of who you were 10 years ago. So as we record this, it's 2022. Think who you were in 2012. You were a different person. You were in a different circumstance. Your family looked different. Your thoughts were different. Your goals were different. 10 years from now, 2032 will be just as different, but probably a lot more different than it is now. The reason I say this is because we irrationally believe that our goals today are the goals we're going to want in 10 years. We irrationally believe that we're going to be the same person we are today in 10 years, when we actually know, not just like physically as our body changes, but mentally, but our circumstances, we are a different person today than we were 10 years ago. That means, as far as changing your mindset and doing something, it would make more sense to pull that future you that you want from 2030 and behave and become that person right now by starting these ideas, starting these business and doing these things so that you can, like you're saying, quantum leap, have mentors. You can exponentially leapfrog from who you are today to who you are tomorrow in the now, but also build on top of that. So 2030, even with crazy things that are definitely going to happen, will look a lot different, maybe even in better ways than you have ever imagined. It's so important to act right now. I'll leave you with one quick little acronym for the word START. This is how you start anything. Serve, think, ask, receive, and trust. S.T.A.R.T. Serve.
One more
think.
time.
Yeah. Serve, think, ask, receive, and trust. Just like what you're doing right now with me and with so many others, you serve them. You thank them. When I should be thanking you, you're thanking me. Like you're finding ways to ask people and to receive from them and to trust the process. You look at any great leader, any great leader, and you will see they served people first. It was selfless, but it was also self-care. They thanked them. They earned the right to ask. They were open to receiving help. They were an island unto themselves, and they trusted others and they trusted this process. They trusted they were smart enough, creative enough to ask better questions, to figure it out. That process will even though what you want to do may not look like the way it shows up right now, that process will help you eventually get to that or to something better.
Awesome, Richie. So basically operate from your goal achieved.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. See, there's a good one right there.
That's a very common one, actually. I'm pretty sure I heard that someone else said the same thing, so I might have repeated that. But
I like that.
It provides a clarity, right? It provides a clarity when you realize what you want, you internalize it, and you just operate from there. You make decisions from there. You take action from there. You build relationships from there. That part alone has been the main reason for whatever I have experienced, like the main, but I had to work really hard to make that believable within. Like there's a lot of work involved, but that's why people like you are needed, especially nowadays. So
I love it. I mean, people think they need to make all this money and spend all this time to do this thing. Just go sell one. Go sell one. Go get a letter of intent from somebody, and then you'll see if you like it or not. And you'll see if you can figure it out or not. They could pay you in advance. I don't know, but that will help anyone listening to this figure out what they're trying to do, for better or for worse. Go and try and sell one, and you will see all the pieces come together, because you have to actually
sell one. Sorry,
do it.
Sell one.
Yeah. Sell one. So like people will say they want to do something, but they think they need lots of money, and they think they need lots of things, and they think they need lots of people, and they create all this overhead, and they put sales last, even though sales should be first.
Oh, so sell what? Yes, I understand. Yeah.
So so if you go out and you just like sell one, even if it's just if it's some physical thing that requires a lot, you can still get someone like on Kickstarter to pay up front potentially, or a letter of intent if it's something big from some company. But or if it's just coaching or consulting or a book idea or whatever, you can do this. But when you sell one, it creates that forcing function for all the other things that you're trying to put together. It forces them to actually have to come together, and then you can see what's working, what's not. There's nothing worse than someone running ads or whatever on a system they've never tested, and they're scaling problems. It's way better to figure out what actually works and scale what works than to scale your problems, there's a lot of love, and experience in what I'm sharing. I just hope that people don't ever feel overwhelmed. Like it really can be, it's complex, but you can simplify things in a way that makes it actionable for you and for others. And dude, I love you, man. This is so fun.
Same here, man.
I knew we'd have fun. I knew it.
Yeah, man. It's amazing. Hopefully we continue to build this relationship. I'll serve as much as I can, add value as much as I can, because what you're doing for people is highly respected in my world. I really highly value entrepreneurs that are out there doing service for others. Like they're coming from that mentality of service mentality. I have utmost respect for them, because what they're going about. They're going about trying to provide value. They're trying to do good. They're not looking at, okay, this person is worth 6,000. This one is 5,000. That money stuff comes like it's a default. But when you go and operate from service, money, money will come. It's just the eternal world needs to expect it. And you do service for your fellow humans, fellow living things all around as much as you can. And just good things start happening. And be grateful, right?
That's true, man. That's really true.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you again, audience. You see how amazing Richie is. So he'll be in the show notes, his information, contact information. Make sure you ping him. Make sure you contact him. Check out his funnel, his book, his website. And again, we love you guys. If you guys are struggling, if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling like, it's always one thing after another, that type of feeling. Get in touch, contact Richie, talk to him. You can see he has a very great heart, open book policy. And the more help we can provide others, the more you would be in that position to help others. So that's why it has this ripple effect, and this goodness always multiplies way faster. So thank you again, audience, everyone. Thank you, Richie. And Richie, just hang in there. I wanted to speak to you after I stop recording.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you again.